Good afternoon. Welcome along to EFL London show on Football League World TV. I'm your host, George Dagless, and joining me this afternoon, Chris Thorpe and Marcus Ally. Chris, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Obviously got my new Wimbledon shirt on, so pretty buzzing about that. But yeah, no, looking forward to getting into all the business going around the capital. So yeah, should be good.
Looking smart in that shirt, Chris. Marcus, how are you getting on?
Yeah, really well, thanks, George. Some fascinating encounters coming back from the international break this weekend, so looking forward to getting into it.
Yep, international break is done and dusted, thankfully. Last one for the calendar year, you'll all be pleased to hear. Do get in touch. Followers of London clubs in the EFL, do get in touch and let us know how you think the season's going so far, what you're hoping for this weekend of the season ahead. Let's get straight into the headlines. Let's talk Fulham first of all. There's news concerning Siriki Dembele at Peterborough United. They've slapped a £4 million price tag on the play. He's been linked with Fulham for quite a while, among other sides. Rangers and Celtic as well in Scotland have been linked with him. But let's talk Fulham. Of course, this is the EFL London show after all. Chris, £4 million for Siriki Dembele. Do you think that's a price that Fulham, if they wanted to pay it, do you think that'd be good value for money?
I'm pretty sure he's in the final year of his deal. I think they're pushing the boat out a little bit, trying to get that much money for him in January. Whether Fulham really need him, I'm not really so sure. Obviously, you look at your forward options. Obviously, Mitrovic is going to start every week, isn't he? And then you got Muniz coming off the bench, and obviously Cordova-Reid can also play there too. So I'm not sure where Dembele would sort of fit in the side. And yeah, as I said previously, I just don't think that he's worth the money if he's going to be available for free in the summer. So I'm not really sure Fulham will go for that.
Okay, Marcus, what do you make of this story? What have you made of Dembele's performance as well? Obviously, we've seen him in League 2 and League 1 do really well for the likes of Grimsby and Peterborough, of course. What have you made of him so far in the Championship?
He has adapted really well to the level, to be fair to him. He's such a huge player. There's a lot of stress on his shoulders in terms of carrying Posh's attacking contingent, especially since Johnson Clark-Harris had that ban as well. He had to step up to that, and he has done pretty admirably, having Posh just sitting outside the relegation zone. I think they've got a 2 or 3 point gap on it. If they didn't have Dembele in the side, I probably don't think that would be the case. Having said that, 4 million, considering if his contract was a bit longer, that's probably quite a reasonable price. But I don't really see how he gets into Fulham's team. And even looking ahead, if Fulham are to get promoted to the Premier League, I can't see Dembele getting very many minutes at all. So in terms of looking ahead, apart from this season, it might be a decent signing to get them over the line. 4 million is quite a lot of money to spend just to get you over the line this season when you've already got a 6 point cushion. But I do have my doubts over whether he'd be much of a consistent player for them in the Premier League. And if they'd end up maybe giving him a 3-4 year contract and he'd spend 2 years out on loan or something like that, I'm not sure about the fit.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that is the real issue, isn't it, Chris? You look at the options Fulham have got in that attacking third. Lots of Harry Wilson, Neeskens Kabala's having a great season so far. Obviously, even Cavallero's there as well, players like that. It's kind of hard to see where Dembele really fits in.
Yeah, no, exactly. As we all touched on now, like he just doesn't get in the starting 11 in my opinion, and well, it seems like Marcus's opinion and your opinion as well, Dags. Personally, for me, I think he's going to end up going to Scotland. He's always linked with Celtic and Rangers. They've shown recently that they're in the market for free agents from the Football League, obviously signing Liam Shaw and Urgadide from Sheffield Wednesday. So perhaps they're going to go for a similar deal of that nature, and he'll go to Celtic and obviously link up with his brother Karamoko. So I would be shocked if he sort of stays in England. Actually, I think the Scottish interest will sort of pull him closer to home and where most of his family live. So yeah, I'd expect him to go to one of the old firm if I'm being totally honest.
Okay, we shall see what happens with that. Siriki Dembele, a long-term Fulham target, or as has been reported at least, available for £4 million at the moment. Let's talk Millwall next. A story that's come to us of Football League World earlier today, in fact, is that Anthony Scully is of interest to the likes of Millwall, Barnsley, Blackburn, Preston as well. But we're focusing on the Lions, obviously, this being the EFL London show. Marcus, let's come to you on this one. A few weeks ago, we did a League One show on Football League World TV, and identifying players that are perhaps too good for the third tier. And Anthony Scully was one of the names that come up. What would you make of this potential story? Would he be a good signing for Millwall?
Definitely, in my opinion. Only 22, 26 goals and 10 assists since the start of last season for Lincoln City. He's even carried on that form where the Imps' form has suffered a little bit at the start of this season compared to the last campaign. Millwall have got to start assessing their options in terms of a long-term Jed Wallace replacement, because otherwise, competing for the top six is quite a distant dream for them, I think. So, yeah, it would be a great signing. Whether Scully's historic West Ham allegiances will have anything to do with it, I'm not sure. I think his dad might have played for West Ham as well, if I'm remembering that correctly. So it'd be interesting to see how it plays out. But Millwall are definitely looking in the right areas if they want to sign an attacking player in the likes of Anthony Scully. He's definitely a player who, yeah, I agree with your sentiments. He's too good for League One, in my opinion.
Been really impressive so far again, hasn't he, Chris, this season in League One for Lincoln? What do you make of this potential signing from a Millwall perspective?
Yeah, I like it from the perspective that he's obviously a Londoner, was born in London, as far as I can see from my research. So it would be perfect for him to come closer to home, if you like. And he's 22 as well. He's got a lot of development still to go in his career. Obviously, Lincoln City have given him the platform to show what he's all about. He can obviously get goals from a sort of wider position. But I like to think with Millwall playing a back three, he could slot in maybe close to the striker in a supporting role even. So he's got a good versatility there, and he can fit into a range of systems. And Gary Rowett's obviously shown that he's keen to use different formations if he feels it will improve results. So yeah, I think he'd be a great fit for them.
Certainly looks a good player. Marcus, just before we move away from this story, obviously Lincoln had a great season last year, made the playoff final. They've been struggling this season, really, and that's what's probably made Scully stand out even more. Do you think their sort of lack of form, or lack of consistent form at least in League One, is probably right now potentially going to go against them in terms of trying to keep hold of him?
Yeah, I think with him being only 22, age is probably on his side, in the sense that Lincoln might be able to sell him the ambition. They're still an ambitious club despite having a poor start to the season, that they do have aspirations to get in the playoffs again and be competing for a place in the Championship in the years to come. It's just how patient he's going to be with that, really. I think Lincoln have more just suffered because there's so many big clubs in League One this season with bigger budgets than their own. Last season it wasn't the case, so they were able to stand out that little bit more. Obviously had Brennan Johnson and Morgan Rogers on loan, which made a huge difference as well. So yeah, it's a tricky one. I think Scully probably won't push for it because Lincoln has, as Chris mentioned, given him a great platform, but that will probably be weighing on his mind with them languishing in the bottom half of the table.
Okay, we will monitor that one as we get towards the January window. One final club to touch on in the headline section of the London show here on Football League One TV, and that's AFC Wimbledon. And Chris, will obviously come to you first of all with this story. Che Alexander, the latest to pick up an injury for the Dons, out for around 2 months after picking up a blow against Sutton in the Papa John's Trophy. He sort of really established himself in the side, hadn't he? How big is the blow, do you think, going to be, Chris, for your side?
It is a blow, considering the other injuries that we've got in the side at the moment, and they are defensive as well, which is unfortunate. Obviously, 2 centre-backs out at the moment too. But at the same time, it gives Henry Lawrence a chance to step up and regain his starting place, which he sort of lost in recent weeks to Che, who's been in great form himself. When he first joined the club last season, he didn't really get in the side under Glyn Hodges, and since Robbo's come into the job, he's pretty much been a regular, really, whether it's a right back or left back. So he's shown his versatility to great effect. Thankfully, it's only 8 weeks. I actually interviewed him yesterday for the matchday program, which is obviously my side hustle, if you like, to work with for FLW. And he was saying to me that there was a worry that it could have been longer. It could have been a couple of months. So hopefully he'll be back sooner rather than later. I've got a lot of faith in our medical staff at Wimbledon. Great set of staff we got there, and they usually get players back a lot sooner than we expect. So I'm hopefully expecting more of the same. Yeah, so we'll see what happens. But I wish Che all the best for his recovery for now.
Certainly do. Do you think, Chris, you look at the start of this season in League One, and obviously the Dons were going really nicely. Do you think this kind of ongoing injury crisis the club's had really in the last few weeks and months. I guess it's quite easy to say that it's probably just caused a little bit more inconsistency and just stunted those results a little bit, hasn't it?
I mean, yeah. You look at the defence and Ben Hennigan and Will Nightingale formed a really solid partnership to begin with. Not just Will's defensive stats, but also his goal scoring. He scored, I think it was 3 games in a row. And that's not something that you usually get from your centre half. So that was a big sort of letdown to lose him, and hopefully he's going to be back, I think, before Christmas now. Mark Robinson said in a recent interview. So we're getting him back sooner than we thought. But at the same time, I think what you need to remember is every team's going to go through a bad phase. We've got the same sort of form as Sunderland, for example, have spent X amount more than us and have a huge budget in comparison to us. But, let's not use budgets as an excuse. So I just think it's a little blip, and I think we'll come out of it whether we have injuries or not. So hopefully we can pick up a good result this weekend against Portsmouth.
Yeah, that's a nice segue, Chris. We'll move away now from the headline section of the football or the EFL London show on Football League World TV. Let's look ahead to the weekend. We'll get to Wimbledon in a bit, but we'll start with the Championship. We're going to start with QPR against Luton. They kick off the Championship action tomorrow night in West London. Several players facing late fitness calls at the moment. Senny Dying, who's just recovered from COVID and come out of his isolation period. We've got Lyndon Dykes, who is still carrying a little bit of a knock back from the game against Nottingham Forest with his ankle problem. Moses Odebajo and Andre Gray, hamstring and knee injuries respectively that need to be looked at. And Ilias Chair only returned from international duty on Wednesday night, so there'll be an assessment there whether he's ready to start at least. Marcus, looking at that list, it's obviously not ideal for Mark Warburton, but you would say that the QPR squad's still got enough depth in it to name a pretty strong side, even if nearly all of them are missing.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not sure it's got the depth to name a strong enough side that you'd be saying that's still a playoff contending side, which is where QPR want to be. The international break isn't too kind to them when you compare them to the likes of Luton. Obviously, Chair going and playing in Africa as well. That's just going to be, even if he's no injuries, that's going to be a little bit more taxing than Dykes going to Scotland. So I think it's a difficult one. I think if you offered Mark Warburton a draw with all of these concerns, he'd probably take that right now. And in terms of how strong Luton are at the moment as well, I think it's going to be a tough evening for them. QPR, they're in the playoff places. They're pushing high, but it's much closer than it looks in the division. And I feel like the squad depth, apart from up front, they've got up front sorted, but in terms of midfield areas and where they've had injuries in key positions, could end up costing them and seeing them slide down the table as we move towards the new year.
Okay, let's have a score prediction for this one, Marcus.
I'm going 2-1 Luton. QPR always make a good fist of it at home. They've got a really good home record this season, but I'm a real fan of the Hatters this season. I think they're one of the better sides outside the parachute payments trio of Bournemouth, West Brom and Fulham. Obviously, Coventry are right up there as well, but I think Luton are really serious playoff contenders this season, and they'll be there or thereabouts come May.
Okay, Chris, how do you see this one going? Do you think QPR's injuries are going to put paid to them getting a win this Friday night?
I think a 2-2 draw. I think it'll be an entertaining game. Both decent sides to watch this season. So, yeah, quite looking forward to that one and seeing how it pans out. But I do think there'll be a lot of goals. So, yeah, I'll go with 2-2. Okay,
yeah, that would be certainly an entertaining game. I'll go for something completely different then, just for the sake of it. Why not? We'll go for QPR. 2-1 home win against Luton to get the Championship action up and running tomorrow night. Moving ahead into the actual weekend itself, Fulham are hosting Barnsley. It's the first game in charge for Poya Asbaghi, in charge of the Tights. Hopefully I've nailed his pronunciation of his name. Not too sure about that one though. Chris, do you think there'll be a little bit of new manager bounce that Fulham need to watch out for?
Well, first of all, I'm glad that you pronounced his name and not me, because I probably would have got it wrong. You know what? I don't think it's going to have any effect. I still think Fulham will turn them over at Craven Cottage, to be honest. Mitrovic obviously bagging the winner for Serbia in dramatic circumstances. He's going to be on the score sheet again, I'd expect. So I can't really look past a comfortable home win for Fulham, despite the potential of a new manager bounce, if you like.
Okay. And what's your score prediction then for this one, Chris?
I'll go for 3-1 Fulham. Mitrovic to get 2.
Okay, yeah, Mitrovic to carry on this impressive goal scoring streak that he's on at the moment. Marcus, what's your score prediction here?
I'm going 2-0 Fulham, so same margin. I think Barnsley can make it competitive. They'll definitely be more optimistic than they would have been going into it under Marcus Schopp or even Joe Lauman. So Carlton Morris coming back in could give them a boost as well. But I think Fulham are looking really solid at home, so 2-0 to the Cottagers.
Yeah, I have to agree with you both here. I can only see a Fulham win. I think you're right, Marcus. Barnsley will look probably a bit more competitive under their new manager, but the way Fulham came out of the last international break as well and really set themselves up for getting into second place, I think they'll be looking to replicate that again. So I'll go for home victory too. I'm going to go 3-1 to the Whites. One final championship game involving a London club sees Millwall head to Middlesbrough. Similar circumstances in a way to Fulham's game against Barnsley, and the fact that there's a new manager in the opposition dugout. Same question again. We'll come to you, Marcus, this time. Chris Wilder in charge of Middlesbrough. It's probably going to be quite a tough game for the Lions, isn't it, given that?
Yeah, I think it's a tough game, sort of looking at it from both angles. Chris Wilder's got a completely different style to Neil Warnock, so it's going to be dependent on how quickly he's able to get his ideas across. He's not as sort of different and bold as Russell Martin when we saw quite a long adaptation period for the Swansea squad at the start of the season. It should be a little bit quicker with Borough, and they're in a more of a healthy league position. But I think Millwall coming to town is quite a difficult match. They're really solid at the back. They've got the individual quality to really hurt you. The likes of Wallace and Shea Ojo on in transition could be a really difficult encounter. I'm sure it'll be a cracking atmosphere at the Riverside welcoming their new man, but I'm not really buying into that. There'll be a huge new manager bounce straight away. Borough have still got their fitness issues, so I think it's a tricky match.
Okay, what was your score prediction be for this one?
I've gone for a board draw, 0-0. I think it might be a bit of it's a really evenly matched encounter for me. I see both sides having similar strengths, not so much going forward, but decent at the back, as I've mentioned. It'll probably be a 3 at the back system versus a 3 at the back system as well. So yeah, I think it could be a bit of a stalemate.
Okay, yeah, I see a 1-1 draw as well myself. Chris, how do you see this one going?
Yeah, I'll make it a hat-trick on this one. I think it's going to be a draw as well. You never know. They might surprise us and play out one of the games of the day, which usually happens when we make predictions like this. But yeah, let's see. But yeah, I can't really pass a draw, really.
Okay, we shall see what happens there in the Championship. Let's move into League One. Marcus, your team Charlton at home to Plymouth this weekend. It's going to be a big test at the Valley. Obviously, Plymouth high flying in League One, top of the table, going really well under Ryan Lowe. But Charlton have picked up nicely under Johnny Jackson, and they'll probably look at this as an opportunity to really show how much progress they've made in the last few weeks.
Definitely, yeah. I think the results and performances against Sunderland and Rotherham have been eye-catching since Adkins' departure, but you could argue that Plymouth might be a tougher test than even both of those. Obviously, Jackson is desperate to get the job. A lot of people questioning why, that he hasn't been given it yet. If he does beat the league leaders, then I think Thomas Sangard would have a lot to answer for if he doesn't give it to him quickly afterwards. So it's a huge opportunity. There's still a 9-point gap between Charlton and the playoffs, and they've played more than a lot of the other teams in between their position and the top 6. So they need a win really to keep the dream alive. Otherwise, it's still get us into mid-table and hopefully have a run in the cup kind of job for Johnny Jackson. But it's definitely an opportunity. Obviously, Plymouth haven't lost since the opening day. Charlton have only conceded once in their last 4, so it's going to be really tough. I think the midfield battle could be really fascinating part of the pitch. Plymouth have looked really strong with the likes of Ryan Broom, Panucci Kamara and Jordan Houghton in midfield, but then the Charlton midfield trio of Gilby Lee and George Dobson has really been clicking in recent weeks as well. So yeah, it should be interesting and a good barometer to measure really how far Charlton have come in the last month or so.
Obviously, they've got the Field the Valley initiative as well. It's all over social media earlier this week. It seems like quite a good idea, doesn't it, Marcus? Try and get Charlton fans back, reconnect with their club after. I think there's a fair amount of disillusionment, wasn't there, earlier on this season when Nigel Atkinson's in charge. Yeah,
obviously Sangard's stabilised the club really since coming in September at the start of last season. But obviously there haven't been supporters that have been able to go to the ground since then. And I think there was an expectation that maybe at the start of this season there would be higher attendances than there has been. Charlton haven't got anywhere near pushing sort of 19, 20,000. So that was definitely something that the club have been looking to do. And of course, with Johnny Jackson and creating the positive mood around the club again, I think it was a good time to capitalise on that. So yeah, the Field the Valley initiative has been a smart move, giving season ticket holders, I think, 3 free tickets to give to whoever they like, friends and family. So they're expecting over 25,500 at the moment. So yeah, it should be a really good atmosphere. Plymouth always bring a great away following from down in Devon. So yeah, it should be a really good atmosphere and hopefully a match to match that.
Yeah, certainly should be. It'd be great to see the Valley packed out with Charlton fans as well. What's your score prediction then, Marcus? Just quickly.
I'm going for an optimistic 1-1 draw. I'd take a draw now if you offered it to me, to be honest. I think, yeah, Plymouth are on fire and they'll definitely fancy their chances of stopping Charlton's recent run. But I'm going to go for a 1-1.
Okay, yeah, I think I can see a draw here as well. Chris, how do you see this one going?
I'm really sorry, Marcus. I think it's going to be a Plymouth win. I'm going to say 2-1 to them. But I do think Charlton will run them quite close because they've shown a lot more fight under Jackson recently.
Okay, we will see how that one pans out at the Valley. Meanwhile, Wimbledon on their travels, they're heading to Portsmouth. As we touched on, quite an extensive injury list for the Dons ahead of this game at Fratton Park. Chris, what do you make of your side's chances this weekend? I mean, Portsmouth, although one of the favourites on paper for the playoffs at the start of the season, even the promotion automatic spots, they've not been brilliant so far this year. So, there's probably cause for a bit of optimism, at least to try and get an away result.
Yeah, I'm a pretty positive fan naturally anyway. Considering we played them earlier in the season, put 5 past them, albeit we both had changed XIs, I still feel like we can go there and get a result just because of their inconsistencies. I know we've been inconsistent ourselves, but the expectations are higher at Portsmouth and at Fratton Park. In fact, if we frustrate them enough, the fans will get on their back. So I think that could play in our favour. Injuries aside, I still think the players we have available are good enough to go there and get a result as well. I don't know what the score might be. I reckon we could maybe nick a narrow away win, but I'd probably be happy with a draw, to be honest.
Okay. Yeah, similar to Marcus with Charlton. Then I can see another draw myself here at Fratton Park. So I'm backing a lot of them this afternoon. Marcus, what's your score prediction here?
I'm going 2-1 Portsmouth. Sorry, Chris. I think the 1-0 win at Wycombe Wanderers last weekend would have built a lot of confidence where there hasn't really been some at times this season at Pompey. So I think Cowley can keep them pushing up the table with a narrow win.
You weren't predicting a Portsmouth win just because Chris picked a Plymouth win, were you, Marcus?
No, of course not. Wimbledon have been on the slide last few weeks. We spoke about the injuries. So, yeah, I think Pompey, if they can keep the fans on side, we'll be able to get over the line.
Okay. Everyone writes us off anyway, so...
We will see what happens in League One this weekend. Finally, let's drop into League Two, where we've got a bit of a London derby. East London welcomes South London in League Two. Leyton Orient playing host to Sutton United, 9th hosting 8th as well in the League Two table. Two sides going pretty well. They'll be pretty happy with their season so far. Chris, what do you make of this game? Who do you think is going to be going into it as the favourites?
I think it's going to be a tough one to call, actually. Been so impressed with Sutton's start. Obviously, only 10 minutes down the road from me, so I'm maybe a bit biased towards them. I want to see them doing well. But at the same time, we can't look past Leyton Orient. Obviously, Kenny Jackett's gone in there. Big expectations for them. Obviously, got the goals coming in from mainly Aaron Drinnan and also Smith up front. If they can keep those two scoring, then I think they'll have a real good chance of getting into those playoffs. But as for the match itself... It's really hard to call. I reckon Leyton Orient will wedge it because they're at home. I think Sutton tend to be better on home turf. I know they've picked up away wins recently as well. But yeah, no, I still think Orient have that little bit more quality that will get them over the line.
Yeah, I'm sort of inclined to agree with you. Although Sutton have done a very good job of, proving a lot of predictions wrong so far this season. So you never be surprised, but I do fancy a narrow Orient win. Marcus, just finally, what are your thoughts on this game? Who do you fancy here?
I'm firmly on the Sutton United bandwagon. I think they could be automatic promotion contenders. I really do by the end of the season. Orient, 9 unbeaten, but a lot of draws. I think this could be a real cracker. yeah, I'm really enthusiastic about Sutton at the moment. I think David Adjaboy on the right flank is too good for League Two. And they've got a lot of players that are really on upward trajectories in their careers. So I am going to go for a draw, sit on the fence. I think Orient, Jacket will be able to manage it really well. And as Chris says, they've got a really impressive front three. So I'm going to go for an entertaining 2-2 draw in this one.
Okay, we've split up the results a little bit more there, so that's good to see. We shall see what happens in League Two when Sutton travel to Leyton Orient this weekend. Let's just tell you what's coming up on Football League World TV tomorrow. We're done for the day on the channel for Thursday at least. Betting show at 10 a.m. Sam Rocks hosting that one. He's joined by Ben Wignall and Billy Mully. Then we've got the Under the Microscope, Sunderland against Ipswich preview. Ned Holmes hosting that one. Fleetwood Town Takeover at 2 p.m. Marcus Ally, you'll be hosting that one. You're joined by Nappers, the Fleetwood fan. And then finally at 4 p.m. The weekend preview, I'll be hosting that one. Marcus will be joining me and Chris Gallagher will be with us as well. Thank you for joining us. Wherever you've been watching from, do subscribe to Football League World TV on YouTube. That'd greatly appreciate. Do like this video as well if you can. That'd be greatly appreciated too. Chris, Marcus, thank you very much for joining me this afternoon. From us here, though, it's bye for now.